Hi Paul, how you doing? I'm trying to find myself a pipe to smoke. I don't actually think I've got a pipe here which hasn't been smoked before. They're all upstairs. Well, that sucks. Here's one. Don't know how long this has been sitting there. I don't know if you guys remember this one from years ago. I can really rework it, I suppose. Unbelievable, look at that. London Calling 18. Oh, that brings back memories. We're up to pipe 90 today. Just finished pipe 90. Wow. That's crazy. 72 pipes ago. I can't even just get my head around that. That's nuts. What? Why did I have a 4 on it? Oh, it's pipe number 4. Okay. Not sure where the stem is for it. I should have a stem knocking around here somewhere. Hey, Mr. Meyer. What have we got here? It looks like Audit Golden Sliced. It smells like Audit Golden Sliced. And hopefully will taste like it. I find with Audit Golden Sliced I can just literally break a bit off and just stuff it in. I'm good to go. Please say I've got filters. I've got some filters. We're in business. So this is becoming a bit like a daily soap opera. Alright, let's light this bugger up. Don't know why I said bugger, I meant fella. Well, so today I started off working on a pickaxe. But I haven't really got very far. All I've done is drill the draft and put a stem into it. But it's a big challenge, that pipe, so I'm not sure if I've got enough time. So instead, I decided to save this pipe. You remember, I made this pipe yesterday and I managed to get a hole right through the bottom of it. So I took a piece of mortar and this is what I've done. So that's now a sitter. So I'm doing my best to make it smokable, to save it, because it's got some really, really nice briar. Got some lovely grain. Yeah, I just didn't want to waste it. So it's going to look a bit unusual, but it's going to be smokable. The pickaxe is a shape, I'll show you. That's the pickaxe. So it's a bit like the shape of the little hammer in the Shawshank Redemption pickaxe pipe. It's going to be a challenge because there's very little I can do on the lathe. It's going to be a tough pipe to make, that's for sure. So we'll see how that goes. Well, this one is more of a poker shape, the other one is a pickaxe. I'll probably have to work over the weekend on that one. This OGS is tasting particularly good. I just got off Sea Smokes live. He was showing the 673 Matches tribute pipe that he's made, which will be joining me soon. So I'm looking forward to getting that. It'll go in the auction. Smokes very well, this, considering it was my 18th pipe. Not bad. A lot of people said that it had a bit of a Sheraton's kind of look to it, but I think now I can certainly sort of sharpen up the shape if I really wanted to. But it's good to see the progress, you know, of where you've come from, so I'll probably leave it. Okay, so what I'm doing with this pipe, originally this pipe was supposed to be a lump of coal. It was supposed to be a black rusticated pipe. It was a commission, but because of the problems that I've had with it, obviously I can't give it to the customer. So what I'm going to do is I want to save this grain. You can see the grain even without me wetting it, that straight grain there, which is a crime not to make the most of it. So I'm going to part rusticate it and part leave it smooth, and then we'll take it from there. So what I want to try and do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rusticate behind this line. So I'm going to rusticate the shank because of these spots here, rusticate there, and the rest I'm going to keep smooth to make the most of this grain. Really nice grain. So the first thing I need to do is I'm going to sand this through to about 1200 grit, maybe 1500 grit. Then I'll rusticate, and I'll stain, leave it for a few hours, and then come back to it. And we'll see how we go. So I think first I'm going to make a start on rustication, and we'll see how we go from there. need it, I can see it. Isn't that just the way? Hi Tim, how you doing? So, did you see me do the pipe the other day which got a hole in the bottom, Tim? I'm trying to find my tape and I can't find it. Hey Robert. Anyway, so I'm trying to save that pipe, and this is where I'm at. I've put a piece of mortar, a bit of scrap mortar that I had, which I'd set aside in case for these kind of emergencies, and that's what we've got so far. So I'm going to part rusticate this, part leave it smooth, and we'll see if we can make a pipe worthy of smoking. Am I going mad? This tape was sitting right there. Did you guys just see that? Well, hopefully it'll be better than having chucked it away. Smoking some Orlik Golden Sliced in one of my very early pipes, which I just found in a drawer, realizing that I didn't have a pipe with me. LC18, pipe number 4. It's quite amazing to see the difference between the pipes. Congrats on the pipe from your sister. What a lovely present. Get a gift for somebody that you know will make them happy is just such a great thing to do. So what I did with this mortar is I basically did a bit of a rustication on the bottom of the pipe and on the top of this little block, and then glued it so that it would sort of go in and out between those sort of rusticated bits, so it'll help with the adhesion. I hope it lasts. It was fine when I sanded it. I left it for a few hours, and it's held fine when I sanded it, so hopefully it'll stay that way. I've got to find a way to just fill, there's a couple of gaps here, which I didn't want to push the boat out because I didn't want to ruin the pipe. But hopefully we'll fill that. I might just get a bit of mortar dust with a bit of glue and just fill it, maybe, just to fill the gap. I'm going to do quite a fine rustication this time. Just, I don't want to go crazy. So I'm doing a part rustication. I'm just doing a rustication behind the tape lines, and the rest is all going to be smooth. So it's going to be quite a lot going on with this pipe in the end. Quite a lot of different surfaces and textures, which I think will be quite cool. And I'm hoping that when it's finished, that it's going to look amazing. I'm going to try and do a kind of a grey stain, contrast stain there, and we'll see how that looks. My phone's decided to slow down one that I'm looking at the messages on. Let's see if we can get back in. There we go. Alright, back on. So what are you using the pipe for? Which kind of tobacco? I don't know about notifications, Tim. I've got all notifications turned off on my YouTube settings. Otherwise I'll have no peace. Internet cutout. Yeah. Well, mine came out, just cut out to tell me that good night, Mr. Meyer, thanks for joining. To tell me that I've got an Apple iOS update. And I said, no thank you. When you do iOS updates, it invariably slows your phone down. So I hold off as long as I can when it comes to doing updates. It's really criminal what they get away with. It's the same with internet providers. Just when it comes to, I'm a firm believer of this. I know it sounds a bit conspiracy theory, but I'm a believer that when it comes to your renewals, they slow your service down. They put a chokehold on it, and you just, you think, oh well, I better get the next best thing since sliced bread. Oh no, you can't watch every single video, Paul. That's I couldn't do that. I couldn't possibly. It's just not doable for me, I'm afraid. Yeah, that is frustrating, Tim. That's frustrating for sure. What did you think about this woman MP who dressed with the off-the-shoulder dress? I actually recorded a video this morning, but I actually tried 3 times, and my phone just kept on stopping recording in mid-recording, and there was me in the middle of a 5-minute monologue talking to thin air as usual. My phone's been doing that quite a bit recently, which is very, very frustrating. I'm a bit old-fashioned when it comes to these things. I do believe that there are certain places that require decorum. It's not to say that having an off-the-shoulder dress is not in keeping with decorum, but for me, a church, a mosque, a synagogue, House of Parliament, Buckingham Palace, a courtroom, I think there's a place for respect, and the Houses of Parliament is certainly one of those. And for me, I wouldn't like to see somebody dressed like that as much as I wouldn't like to see a guy coming in with short trousers in the summer. It just wouldn't be acceptable to me. And there should be some form of dress code. It's not because she's a woman, it's not because she was showing flesh, I just don't think it's respectful. As I say, it would be the same for me if a man came in short trousers. Well, on that one, I'll have to agree to disagree with you, Paul. Yeah, I don't think it matters what it was. It wasn't just the shoulder; it was quite a way down, and it just wasn't in keeping. I'm not going to be the arbiter. Nobody's going to really be able to say how far you go is called acceptable and how far not. The fact that people were criticising it shows that a lot of people were offended by it, and therefore, it's questionable. And for me, I think it was inappropriate. It's not something that she should be sanctioned for. It's not something that she's done wrong as such, that should be punished for. I just think it was not in keeping with the house. That's my view. It was kind of pushing pushing the boat out. Because the problem is that what happens is that if that's acceptable, somebody just takes it a tiny step further, and then the next person takes it a tiny step further than that, and eventually there's no. This is not good. The bottom is moving. The base of this is moving. It held all the way through sanding. Right, I have to be careful. It'll probably carry on sticking overnight. My phone is playing up something chronic. I think that's absolutely right, Tim. No question about that. As I say, I don't think she did anything wrong per se. I just don't think it was in keeping. That's all. I think it was incongruous. I think that's a good way of putting it. It was just out of place. For me, anyway. Yeah, no, it wasn't about being lewd or anything like that. That wasn't really my problem. As I say, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I just think it's not in keeping. It's not in keeping with the decorum that you have and that you expect in the Houses of Parliament. And as I say, in the same way as I wouldn't expect somebody to come in short trousers. I would imagine that there is some kind of dress code, and I would imagine that all the gentlemen there would not be able to, for instance, during the heat of the summer, they wouldn't be able to come in shirt sleeves. I don't think I've ever seen anybody in shirt sleeves. And I think it's that kind of position that I've got. It's not about whether it was on the shoulder, off the shoulder, anything else showing. It's not about that. It's just about presenting yourself in a respectful way. It's not about on the shoulder, off the shoulder. It's not actually about how she dressed. It's about just, I think, being out of place, incongruous. It could be that it fell off her shoulder, but obviously it was an off-the-shoulder dress. And she stood there for a while like that. She wasn't fixing it. Yeah, exactly. Going to work in your Tarzan pants. I'm gonna just put the wire brush on it, and then I'm gonna stain it, and then I'm gonna leave it for a while. I'm not sure if I'm gonna carry on with the pickaxe. I'll show you that in a minute. I'm just going over to the lathe just for a second to use the wire brush. Ouch. Ouch, that hurt. So there's the rustication, which looks really nice. I've given it a wire brush, and that gives it a nice kind of a speckled, smooth kind of look to it. So now I'm going to carry on sanding, then staining, then I'll set it aside. This is the pickaxe. I've left it in the thing because I don't want to lose the position. This is the pickaxe for some reason I decided to work on tonight. I picked up this this block, and it's just a stunning block. It's got great grain on the side, excuse me, on the side there, and fantastic bird's eye on the side. It just had to be a pickaxe to me, looking at the shape of it. Whether I'll do it justice or not remains to be seen. But that's going to need time and patience, so that'll probably be done over the weekend. Right. So, guess what? We're sanding again. A fairly formal business transaction. Yeah, that kind of sounds about right. Where's my 600? 600. To 800. Hopefully we'll be able to get staining pretty quickly. Hi Newton, how you doing? I'm a bit muffled because I'm wearing a mask. That feels great. What I do need is a little bit of glue. I think I need to get more glue. I think this is the last bit I've got left. Hey Rocking Steady, I don't mind you asking at all. That's the whole point of these videos, because although I run the risk of them being repetitive and boring, when I first started looking at making pipes, I couldn't find any videos which had the basics. There was lots of, people showing you snippets of what they did, but without showing you the basics. And without the basics, it's hard to make the jump from the basics to the next stage. So, there's no secret. So if people want to see what it's all about, then why not share? Have I still got this zoomed in? So in terms of making a start, just bear with me a second, I just need to focus on this. What I'm doing at the moment is I've got a little hole here and I've got a little gaps around here, so I'm going to be filling that with glue and pushing in some briar dust. And I'll have to somehow sand this afterwards without wrecking it. Alright, so where were we? My pipes at the moment I sell here. So anything that gets made is put on YouTube, and I'll just write on an LCS Briars pipe number, whatever it is. So earlier today I uploaded LCS Briars pipe number 90, and that's basically what I do for now. I will eventually perhaps either set up an Etsy page or get a website made. You know, I will at some point do something more efficient and official. Okay, so we've done the rustication. We've done that little repair there, which I will sand once it's completely dry. Just push a bit more glue on that. So I'm basically forcing some glued sawdust, briar dust, into that hole, and then I'll sand it once it's dry. It's just to prevent it from leaking smoke through there. Nothing too complicated. Just make sure that it's clean on this side, and that's that. Okay. It's not going to be perfect. It is a kind of a pipe save at the end of the day. So whatever I can salvage will be a bonus. So coming to your question about what tools you need. Well, what I started with was this. A drill and a simple Velcro backing pad. That was it, nothing else. That's what I started with. I put the drill in a workbench, in a vise, and turned it upside down so I can get easy access to the switch. At the time I had a variable speed switch, so I could play around with the speeds. And even for polishing, I got one of these things with a drill arbor, and that's what I did. There was a lot of changing stuff the whole time in and out of the drill, which is tedious, but that's how I started. I got kit blocks, and that was it. And I probably made half a dozen pipes before I actually let anybody sort of have a chance at buying any of my pipes. But the learning curve was pretty sharp, and it went quite quickly as well. Hey, Sea Smokes. So at the moment I'm doing my best to save the pipe from yesterday. The pipe that I put a hole through. Where is it? Unbelievable. I do this all the time. I put stuff down, it's right in front of my face and I can't see it. Can you see the pipe, anyone? I do this the whole time. It really gets on my nerves. This is crazy. I'm working on the darn thing. I hope I didn't drop it. behind my coffee cup. So that's what I've done with it. I've put a bit of mortar on the bottom. I've part rusticated it, and the rest is smooth, really nice grain. And I've just filled in a few cracks with some glue, and here as well with some briar dust and glue mixed together to fill in a hole. And we should be good to go very soon. I'm going to start staining in a minute. Just make sure that the stem still fits after that gluing. That is good. That's got to be bent a little bit, but it's really a nice sitter now. It's a solid sitting pipe. I've put a really acute angle on there so that it will sit nicely. It'll be maybe a bit of an odd looking pipe, but I'm going to blend it in with a staining. I'm going to try and make the staining sort of sympathetic with the colouring here. So we'll see how that goes. For the rustication, I used my own rustication tool, which I made after seeing similar versions online. There it is. So all this is a block of briar, which I've drilled a hole in, pretty much as you would a smoking chamber. A bunch of nails which I ground down, sharpened on a bench grinder, strapped them together with a cable tie, filled this with a huge amount of composite glue, let it sit overnight, and it was rock solid. It's like solid plastic, this now. And that's what I use, and it works very, very well. You just have to be patient, a bit of elbow grease, and that's it. And this, obviously, I've put a wire brush to it as well, so it gives a nice finish, nice even look. Sometimes I don't do the wire brush when I want it to have a real craggy look, a sharp look, but that definitely smooths it out and gives it a more universal finish. Now after using the after starting off with this, I mean, this is still my main way of sanding for the moment. The next stage obviously had to be getting some way of advancing my shaping and drilling and doing my own drilling. At that stage it was really just using hobby blocks which were pre-drilled both in the draft hole and in the chamber. So the next thing was to get a lathe, and for me that was the biggest step, the biggest jump. It was also the most intimidating step for me because I had no idea what a lathe meant. I didn't know how to use it. I knew nothing about a lathe. I'd never ever, besides for once when I went to Mike Billington at Blake Marbrize, he let me play around with his lathe. But besides for that, I'd never ever come across a lathe before, at least not knowingly. Hey Cornish Piper. I got the lathe. I couldn't set it up straight away because I didn't have a chuck. I only had the chuck I had a chuck, but no jaws. The jaws that I had were universal jaws, which I could have done it if I understood a little bit more about it. For instance, now I could probably use a basic set of jaws which were literally just about a centimeter deep, but at least I would know how to line things up. But the biggest intimidation for me was not understanding how to load the briar onto the lathe. Once I cracked that, it makes life so much easier. Understanding the concept of a lathe and the axes that it works along. When I've done pipe videos of doing a full pipe from beginning to end virtually, that's a point which I always stress, is that you just have to understand that the lathe works in a straight line. So from one end to the other, as long as you keep to that straight line with whatever you do, you should be okay. Hey Ratcliffe. So we're going to stain. I've got to find me something like a grey stain. I want to try and blend in with the mortar if I can. So these are some samples that I've got. With a colour chart. But there's nothing really here that's ideal. Other than the black, I suppose. I could just go... The thing is that when you do black... it really would need some kind of grey in between the light and dark areas. Otherwise, you just end up with, because the briar itself has like a goldenish color, like a really light gold. When you polish it, it comes up gold. If I do a contrast stain of black, then when I take off that undercoat, I'm left with black and this color, which will turn gold once goldish. So I'll end up with a standard contrast stain. Now what I want is to get some kind of black and grey. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that yet, but no worries, rocking steady. Let's see what else I've got here. Oh, I know what I'm going to use. I have dark Jacobean. Dark Jacobean I could do with light Jacobean if there is such a thing. This is another set of samples that I've got from Chestnut Stains. Yeah, I'm going to go with this stuff. I do have white. I've never actually tried mixing white to make grey. I'll be honest with you. I've never understood white on wood. I mean, I suppose it's like white paint, but I don't think it is actually like white paint. Well, I guess it is actually. But I would use that afterwards. In other words, because the black will get absorbed into the soft parts of the briar, and the grey I want to have in the light parts of the briar, so there's a contrast. But we'll give it a try and see what it looks like. So I think the main colour will have to be white with a drop of black. Let me just give this another shake. We'll certainly give it a try, John. We'll see what happens. Next, find your glove. There we go. It does look pretty white. I suppose it's what it says on the tin, eh? Boca. Actually, I'll use dark Jacobean because dark Jacobean is a grey, so that'll work better than the black and the white. Hopefully, we shall soon find out. How you doing, Snoopy? I'm not sure if I said hello to you yet. Ugh, why is this leaking? You can see this black stain on the table. That's because a bottle fell in the past. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what's going on here, but when I drop this in, it fizzes. There's something happening, I'm not quite sure what. I don't know if it's the alcohol content or if there's some difference between the two types of stain. But there is some fizzing going on. This might be a good idea, Tam. Yeah, might get some nice grain. Some nice bird's eye coming through, eh? Definitely something going on here. When I put the black in, it fizzes. Right, let's have a look at my spare bit of briar. See, watch this. You see it fizzing. I think it's just getting absorbed. I hope I'm not creating some kind of toxic mix here. Yeah, that's what exactly that. You can see it bubbling, which doesn't sound right. I'm going to put my mask on. Don't like the sound of it. Hey WE. Actually, I'm not sure if I've sanded the rim. Right, now just put a brush. I'm going to get rid of that. Get rid of those. That. Let's start fresh. Right, so guess what? I've got to find my sacrificial stem, which I use for staining. So give me half hour. And to think I tidied this desk up just the other day. Here we are. Beans on toast, a classic. Here we go. So you can see the colour is more of a lighter grey kind of colour. I may not need anything else, maybe just let it dry, put a few coats of this on, and then just take the undercoat off and see what gets revealed. That rustication is looking great. I'm also going to put the stain on the mortar so it all blends in as best as possible. I might sand that back off because the mortar itself has its own attractiveness. Would I do that to you, John? Seriously? Would I do that? I'm finding that the more stuff we get connected to, the more unreliable it becomes. Let that dry off a little bit. Right, let's have a swig of coffee. Yeah, Daniel's mother did pass away yesterday. Any suggestions for a new pipe montage? What kind of montage? Yeah, it's really hard for Daniel. I think he's on his own. He hasn't. I don't know if he lives with his parents or not, but he's not married or anything like that. So he's going to have to deal with it on his own, kind of thing. Keep his father strong. So that's tough. You do videos, Paul. You got videos on your channel. I'm not sure if I've been to your channel or not. I should have, I suppose. Sorry about that. Wrap over the knuckles. I will do, Paul. Thank you. You can already see some of that grain popping through there. So that should actually look really good. That's a neat idea, Newton. But this one came about as an error. In fact, a lot of the nice pipes come about through an error. But that's an interesting concept. So as you put on the layers, it becomes more and more solid. So it's pretty much almost a black layer. But when you take the coats off sort of progressively, that's how you get the contrast stain. The briar is kind of got two sort of densities, so the grain absorbs more than the flat parts, the smooth bits with no grain. So the grain takes on the dark color, and then when you take off the top layer, you're left with dark grain and lighter soft area. The harder areas stay light, and so that's how you get your contrast. I'm actually really happy with how this is coming out. I'm just delighted that I was able to save the piece of briar, because it would have been a real shame. It was a really good quality piece of briar, this, and I just didn't want to lose it. So I'm pleased that it's going to be salvaged. So we'll let that dry for another couple of minutes, and I think one more layer, and then that's done till at least later on tonight, if not Saturday night maybe, or maybe tomorrow if I have spare time. But I've actually got a photography job tomorrow, so, and Friday's a very short day in my religion, so probably will be Saturday night. Thank you, Bokar. Are you a pipe maker yourself, Bokar? I look established. This is pipe number 18. Can you believe that? This was done probably around a year ago, and it's pipe number 4 after I started numbering my pipes. And just look at the difference between the pipe there. At the time I thought this was amazing. I mean, it is a nice pipe, but it's just very rudimentary, if you like. Just look at the difference. A happy accident, Newton, absolutely. You're a fisherman. Not something I've actually gotten into. Enjoying some Orlik Golden Sliced in here. Truth is, if we did a bit of a census on what people on the YTPC do, you'd probably have the most amazing, diverse range of skills. It would be quite a cool thing to do, I think. What I really would like to find is some very, very fine files. I have some, like these, and they are pretty fine, but I want something finer. You guys got any tips? I'd appreciate it. That's something which I really, really am desperate to find. Some very, very fine files. No, unfortunately you can't get all it golden sliced here. I've actually been in touch with Sam at GQ Tobaccos. He said he's going to look into it and see what the reason is. So I'm hoping to hear from him soon. I sent a message to him a few days ago. He said they'll have a look into it, so you never know. It would be cool if we could get it re-established here. It really depends on the reason. If there's a problem with the ingredients, then there's not much point. Hi John. If it's not about the ingredients, then perhaps we can get a campaign together. I'll certainly be happy to spearhead that. See if we can get something going. Any of you noticed how many layers I've done on this? I think I'm going to leave that there in terms of layers of stain. Put that away. So the pickaxe there's the pickaxe which as if I haven't got enough challenge in my life, I've decided to challenge myself with this pickaxe design. It'll be quite a big pipe, but the this piece of bride just demanded this shape. Beautiful tight grain on the outside, bird's eye, all the way down, and straight grain on the sides. Really perfect for this shape. It's just a matter of whether I screw it up or not. That's the honest truth, and that's going to be a challenge. So as I say, I don't think I'll have enough time to work on this until the weekend. So we'll see how that goes. I'll tell you what, Paul. You know, making a pipe is simply a matter of drilling 2 holes. You could take a square piece of wood, make a hole over there for your chamber, a hole over there, and you could smoke that. In the olden days, the first way they smoked was literally with a mound of earth or a mound of clay on the ground. You can see pictures in the Dunhill book, which I've got upstairs. Not pictures, but drawings of literally going into the countryside, pushing a finger into the side of the mountain or whatever it was they did, and making a hole at the top. They filled it with some kind of weed or tobacco or whatever, and they would lie against the side of the hill and suck at the earth. And that hole that they'd made, that clay hole, they would set that alight and they would smoke that. I mean, that's how rudimentary it was. So that's all it is. That's what a pipe is. It's 2 holes. That's it. You want to make it pretty? That can come later. But to get a smoking pipe, there's not much to it, honestly. Have you made any clay pipe sea smokes? Oh, well, it's 10 o'clock. I could do, really, with bringing this further back so it's in line with the top of the bowl. Problem with that is the way this pipe was made originally is it just wouldn't work. So it is what it is. You can see the grain, the streaks of grain there already. So it's getting absorbed into the other areas, and you can just see the bits in between coming through. Maybe I'll do another layer still. It dries pretty quickly, this staining. Yes, Tim, that was him. Don't mention names, please. Did I overshoot the drill? It wasn't so much the drill as sanding afterwards. The base. So the drill was okay, and the drill on the shank was okay, but I miscalculated because I was trying to make it a sitter, and I miscalculated, and basically I went through the bottom. So what I've done is I've taken a piece of mortar, which I've cut down, and I've given it a nice acute angle so that it sits properly. It's a proper sitter. Going to bend that back a little bit. The stem, there's the stem. There's a acrylic Cumberland stem, and hopefully it will look really, really nice. We'll see how we go. That's not going to be necessarily a shop smoker. I'm intending for this to be a very, very nice looking pipe. It may well have a hole in its bum, but once it's smoked and a bit of a cake built up, it'll be as good as any other pipe, hopefully. And I intend to be able to show this off as a very pearly pipe. Not going to sell it, obviously, you know, but still. Hey Daniel, how you doing? No, it's not a brindle stem. This is an acrylic Cumberland stem. A brindle would be ebonite. It's probably Rosa Goodman, I would imagine, there, Paul. How's it going, Daniel? It's not a mortar pipe. It's a briar pipe, but with a mortar base. If you can see that line there, that's mortar, and that's the rest of it is briar. How are you holding up there, Daniel? I used to call the ebonite black and red. I used to call that Cumberland. He says it's brindle. So there you've got a nice rod of what he calls brindle.